You know, it's a big question I have. We look at all these cheap ass boats and what you could buy for 5 grand, 10 grand. And yeah, that works if you're willing to sacrifice the comfort of something more expensive and do a lot of work to make the boat safe and seaworthy. But when you look at these budget cruisers that need tons of work, how far gone is too far gone? What major catastrophic problem would make me walk away on site, drop everything, be impolite to the seller, and run away from a boat like I'd run away from a girl trying to heal me with a pile of rocks? Now, you know I'm a big advocate of two things. The obvious one, to get more people sailing more easily, which the patrons help me with. Shout out patrons. But the second thing about me that you may not know is that it drives me crazy when people say sailing and cruising needs to be expensive or difficult. This is going to light some people up in the comments, but I'm considering making it my life's work to do that. Put on your helmet.
We wouldn't want to make things too easy now, would we?
You can buy a boat for less than 10 grand and you can sail it safely. You can live on it comfortably. People do it every day.
Witchcraft is nonsense.
You still with me? The thing about buying super cheap boats is that you have to be willing to fix it. Fiberglass work, woodwork, electrical work, fix the steering, patch the sails, that's some sewing, change through hulls, and of course, gut the Blackwater waste tank to put in a Nature's Head. Shout out Nature's Head. They don't sponsor me, but I'm hoping one day maybe they will because I could use a new one. What you're trading when you buy a dirt cheap boat instead of saving up for a decade to buy a nice one is some comfort, of course, like sugar scoops and back bedrooms, and a ton of work that you're going to have to do. And I was consulting with somebody helping them buy a boat just the other day, and the question came up, just how much is too much? We see these boats get cut up all the time. Sell the engine, sell the winches, maybe the mast, and then call the scrap guys to come get the lead. It's sad. It's depressing. Every time a sailboat dies, I feel like somebody just kicked a puppy. It's cruel, but it happens a lot. Before we get to the point here, can you take a second and hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already? I'd like these videos to get a lot of reach to accomplish mission number 1. More people sailing more easily. Anyway, how much is too much? Here's how I do it. Decide if the boat's worth going to sea. That's the first step. Get pictures and study them carefully, looking for unfixable stuff like cracked glasswork, soggy woodwork, and more holistically, what kind of boat is it? Was it junk when it was new? Because pouring all your effort and a little bit of money into the boat that sucked to begin with is kind of just silly. If you determine the boat is worth going to sea, then the first thing we want to check is the keel. If it's a bolt-on keel, is it separating from the hull? The Catalina smile, as we call it, usually isn't the end of the world and most of the time. The keel flexes differently than the hull, and on most boats, every 5 to 10 years, we just fix it. We tighten the keel bolts and we sail on. But if it's bad, or the keel bolts are really rusty, or the glasswork in the bilge is all cracked from the stress of the keel, we walk away. That's strike 1 for a sailboat. Keel could fall off, cut it up and sell the lead. For strike 2, we get on board and we go right after the deck and the coach top. Most sailboat top sides were made of glass on the inside, glass on the outside, with wood sandwiched in the middle. Then people drill holes in it all over the place to mount hardware, and they don't bed it properly, and water gets in like cancer and rots that wood. If you think of a sailboat like a fiberglass tube, it's structurally sound, but if the top half of that tube gets all rotted and bendy, the tube isn't structurally sound anymore. You wouldn't want to, say, strap a mast to it and giant sails and then put it out in 20 knots of wind, especially not if you have to be on it. Deck core rot is a huge killer of all old boats, and while you can recore a deck, it's such a sucky job that not many people would ever want to do. So many boats get cut up with a recore job halfway done. It sucks, it's messy, it's itchy, and it's expensive. If I get on a sub $10,000 boat and the deck's all rotted and soft, I'll jump off that boat faster than I'm going to jump off Netflix if they raise the damn price again. If strike 2 is decor, strike 3 is a tie between two other majorly expensive things, but they might not be what you're thinking. Let me tell you first, though, what doesn't scare me. Two things. Bad sails. If I'm getting a boat that I can make work for super cheap, I can live with a bad set of sails, or even better, no sails at all. I'm not going to go drop 10 grand on new sails, but used sails are so common that I'm not that worried about it. I've never bought brand new sails in my life, and I've had 5 or 6 sailboats. Just hang out near the racers. They change their sails every 4 years or so, and you buy the old ones, or call a sail loft for good used sails. The going rate for good used Dacron is $600 to $1,000, and most of these boats are so common that the sail sizes are common too. And then the second thing that doesn't really scare me, bad rigging. Now, I know that sounds scary. Rigging holds the mast up, right? But I'm okay with replacing it. I'm not going to call up Mac Services in Florida. Shout out to Mac Services because they are really good. But instead, I'm going to take one shroud or one stay at a time to a local rigger, and I'm going to ask them to replace that one shroud. Maybe I do one of those a month. Maybe I do one every 2 months. I won't go sailing till the rigging's good. But I can slow this down, and I can do a piece at a time when I have the money. Bringing a whole boat to a rigger is expensive, but bringing one stay at a time slowly means the rigger can do it whenever they have time. It's not a whole boat for them to deal with. So there's no pressure, and oftentimes that means cheaper. So if those two things don't really scare me, what does, other than these things? Do they even float? I might walk away from a boat that needs an inboard engine. I'm pretty mechanical, and I could tackle a repower if the boat was worth it, like something super cool like a Rasmus 35 for like 10 grand or something. A bad engine might be something I can handle, and if the boat's small and light enough, I could always just put a kicker on the back. Maybe. The engine is a big maybe for me, and part of that last strike, the mast. This is a 90% no. Not an entirely no, but close. If the mast has welds in it or cracks, or the boat doesn't have one, I might be a hard no. Masts are expensive and hard to find, and it's just too risky for me. I'm going to sail this boat, and I'm going to sail it pretty hard. I need to know that the mast is good, and if it goes, someone could die. It's not worth the risk. Now, the caveat to that is, if it's a very common boat, like say a Catalina 30 or something, where I know I can find a mast, maybe I take it on. Now, you know what? I'm not interested in the hassle of shipping a mast. 40-foot tubes are hard to ship, and they weigh like 300 pounds. So those are my walk away hard no sticking points. Maybe yours are different, and this all means I'm willing to do a lot of things to get a boat on the cheap. Completely rewire it? No problem. 12 volt is simple, and if I get to wire it, I get to do it my way and make diagrams and use blade fuses instead of glass tubes. I get to make it the way I want it. Plumbing? Sure, PEX is easy to work with, and I can learn that stuff. Interior woodwork? Yes, I can handle it. Does it have to be pretty? I'm not that classy. Glasswork? Sure, do it all the time. That's part of owning a boat, especially an old, cheap one. Do me a favor, leave a comment below, ask questions, and if you need help buying a boat and want to book an hour of my time, head over to ladyksailingcom/consults. Oh, and I said a few videos ago, I got hired by a big company. I can't say who yet, but we are still looking for writers. I got lots of replies before, but more are needed. If you're an expert on engines, electronics, galleys, living aboard, bottom paint, and you want to write sailing articles for money, go to ladyksailing.com/writers. I'd love to hear from you. I need to assemble a team of people who write regularly. Well, that's it for this week, friends. It's December 29th. Until next time, keep the heavy side down, but not too far down, and don't get too lit for New Year's. I love you guys. We'll see you.